Yeah, it's called Conversations with Jeff, not Screaming Matches.
Yeah, you and I do not agree on Calvinism. But look how nice we are to each other.
I think it's going to really shock a lot of people, thrill a lot of people. A lot of people are going to have to do some soul searching.
It's like, you know what? What are you doing? You're spending all your time trying to destroy another Christian day because you don't understand what's going on, when you should be out there winning people for Jesus.
Right.
Thank you for the job you're doing. Thanks for being willing to address these kind of issues. They're vital to the church.
I feel sorry for what's coming your way, but God bless you, man. It's a good, healthy conversation, and let's keep growing together in the Lord.
People won't change unless they hear the truth, though. And so we need to know the truth, speak the truth, and then the last one I would say is that we need to stay in the truth, no matter what the consequences are.
Okay, everybody, welcome to today's episode of Conversations with Jeff. Before we get started today, we've kind of had a pretty big announcement that's come out over the last couple of days. An organization that I've helped found along with J.D. Rucker, Sam Jones, and Ken Peters called the American Conservative Movement, which that organization is focused on unifying us all around conservative principles and defending our constitutional rights, which are slowly being taken away. And I don't even want to say slowly, that's being generous. It's very quickly right now, which we're going to be talking about in today's episode of Conversations with Jeff. But on April 18th, we're going to be doing our very first online conference. It's called the Saving America Conference. We've got a great lineup of speakers, including Michael Johns, who is the co-founder of the Tea Party. We've got J.D. Rucker, who was the founder of the Federalist Party. Mindy Robinson, who's running for Congress in Nevada. We've got Jerry Wayne, who's the one that confronted Joe Biden. I mean, the list goes on and on. We've got Greg Locke, who spoke at the Destroy Social Justice Conference. We got Ken Peters. We got Sam. We've got a great lineup of speakers. So make sure you guys tune in. It's going to be April 18th. We're going to be streaming live on the American Conservative Movement Facebook page. We're possibly going to be expanding that to some other platforms as well, but for sure that Facebook page. So for more information, go to AmericanConservativeMovement.com. You guys can fill out your information, sign up for the newsletter, stay in the loop on what's going on. Again, we're not endorsing candidates. What we're doing is we are educating you and unifying around conservative principles and the Constitution and our civil liberties. So check it out. Highly recommend it. It's going to be a great, great conference. Today, we're bringing back my good friend, Dustin Faulkner, host of Battlefront SouthGate. Welcome back to the podcast, Dustin. Glad we could do this again.
Great. Thanks for having me. It's good to be back. We got a lot of time on our hands with being locked in our homes. So it's good to be in front of a face behind camera.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is I feel like right now you and Sam Jones are kind of going back and forth, neck and neck, to see who can be a guest on Conversations the most. So we'll see how that competition goes.
I'm gonna try and win it, man.
Yeah. There you go. Okay, so I feel like you're kind of like our resident expert when it comes to a lot of these national security issues and things that are going on with the government. I mean, you're always doing extensive research, which everybody I highly recommend. Check out his podcast, Battlefront Southgate. He's dealt with everything from Ilhan Omar to illegal immigration, and now we're dealing with all this coronavirus stuff. So what are some of the things over the last few days since the last time we had you on the show that you feel like have kind of been, either surprising or shocking to you with the direction that our country's headed right now?
Well, a lot of things actually. It's another reason that I haven't that I've had to go back and redo some of the Southgate episodes. It's just because some of the events caused it happened so fast, and you want to kind of stay relevant and everything so that people are getting the information before it comes out, but then it happens as soon as you're in editing and you're like, oh no, man, come on. But one of the things that really surprised me was when Trump said that, and this is some of the things that in Southgate that we were speaking about, is he's not going to want to do anything with the WHO anymore. And that was a pretty good thing because Dr. Dr. Fauci, he was on there, and we know that he has a lot of things that he echoes the WHO, and as well as Dr. Birx. So he has two of these sides at his ear on this issue. So when one is feeding him information, the other one's feeding him information, but it's all the same direction that they're making him go. And I think that Trump is he's seen this from the beginning. I think that, we have a compassionate president. No, he doesn't want anybody to get sick. And you and I, we don't either. I don't want to see people get sick. And I take the virus pretty seriously. I mean, it's killing people. So if it's killing people, you got to take it serious to a point. But I thought that was surprising about how he said he's going to be considering some things about not funding them anymore or taking any advice from them. And remember, they did cover up the initial release of the virus, and we're echoing some things that we're doing with the Chinese Communist Party. Also, if you look, the WHO was involved with the event 201, which was an event that they had in October 2019. Shortly after that, they released some of their videos on YouTube, which was in November 8th, and then we got the first release of the Wuhan virus there in Wuhan. November 17th was the first case that was hidden from the public, but then they said later that because they allowed 7 million people to go through that. So if you looked into that event, you have a bunch of those people from like Dr. Gao from the Chinese CDC who was in that event. And another thing that I thought was this is something that I'm looking into is how come these companies, when they were wanting to do these public-private partnerships, and we all know that that's not a good thing. Every time somebody starts echoing that we're going into the communitarianism, the social justice issues, we're going into socialism. It's all in a word for how they're going to change that. They want to have these public-private. This is all Nazism. That is, think about it. They wanted to control all of corporate fascism. They wanted to control all of the businesses. So how come some of those businesses were so ready, those corporations, to boom, get at the helm and start making these masks and be ready to do all that? And a lot of that was coming from people like Brad Connick from Henry Schein Incorporated. That's a medical supply business. And so it really makes me think about how ready they were to do all of these things. Why is it that we see those people ready to do that? But they're practiced. They're well practiced. Here's because we have Dr. Fauci who gets up there, and I made a joke earlier. I called him Dr. Warner Klopek. I don't know if any of you guys have seen The Burbs. That's who he reminds me of. He reminds me of that guy every time he comes up there. He's not real good at hiding it. He smirks when he comes to the stand. He like today in the conference, he was talking down to people like you and me, saying we're conspiracy theorists, and the people who has questions about what's going on with this, about how they were inflating the numbers and then attributing heart attack victims to the numbers of deaths for coronavirus. And he was saying that's all conspiracy theory, but we all know that when it's been released in these news cycles, that it isn't. They've been inflating these things. Cuomo himself has admitted that they were doing that wrong and then causing those numbers to be inflated so that they could get more of the ventilators and N95 masks and everything, and they could go into these rural hospitals and seize it. And they're still talking about that, by the way. I caught some of that in the conference that today they were talking about all of the hospitals across the nation in various states that have a lot of this equipment. Yeah, well, these states were well prepared, and their hospitals were able to operate much better than other states. So why are we talking about going and seizing from a hospital who might need it? Like Texas is up on the uptick of some of these deaths, some of the infections, and usually if you look about how everything goes, it goes from East Coast, West Coast, and the old adage is that Texas in the middle, the South, is the last to start everything. That's why the technology is better on the East and West Coast. Then it all goes into Texas. And so, because it's the center right there. And they're talking about seizing these things now from the hospitals that were more well prepared so that they can put it into that. And I see that it's getting really bad out there. It's starting to. I see that they keep extending this stuff. I can see that there's going to be a new excuse made that they will extend it past the 30th. It'll go in because they've really been shooting for July for some reason. I keep on hearing that echo through all of this. Oh, we need to get to July and then to November, and we know that there's some issues there because we've had states that have extended their polling, their voting days for the primaries, and then. That's what I see. That's some of the things that I've seen, and the surprising thing about Trump's move, basically calling out the WHO. We need leaders to be doing that because it's time that we start getting away from. There's these people out there saying these things. You have more experts out there that's on the ground level that could be talking about this issue, and they're not saying the same things these guys are. So I think that we really need to start examining what's going on. More deeply and at the ground level than to have two of these people from a globalist organization saying these things to us.
Yeah, well, and I feel like as well when you're dealing with the WHO, it's one of those things where I feel like for a lot of us that are patriotic Americans and and that sort of thing, it's kind of weird trying to take direction from a globalist organization that almost views itself above your own government and above your own experts and and that sort of thing. And I think that those fears were kind of realized when they start, when they're basically providing cover for a country like China, who is basically the ones that did it and then covered it all up. And I don't even think still that they're giving us all the information that we need in order to actually know, the potential of, how is this going to happen? Where did this come from? What's the potential of all of this, that sort of thing. And that's weird. But, the one thing that I do appreciate about Trump as well is that he hasn't come in like an authoritarian. He's come in more the way that I like to see a president behave in, here's our advice, we're going to provide support for the states, but then it's up to the local governors to decide what's best for your local communities. Now, we could all disagree with some of those governors and the mayors and things like that on some of their decisions, but at the same time, I do appreciate that Trump is deferring to local governments. As a constitutional conservative, I mean, that's what we've been begging for decades, and then finally we've got a guy that's willing to do it.
Exactly. And as he's deferred to this, some of them have overreached. You have a governor there that's done that. Our governor's held back some more. And actually, he issued an order, I think it was yesterday, that he actually banned abortion. They can't perform it at all here now. And, if everybody else is going to be using a crisis, why can't some of the other ones start using it and then actually do things like that? So I got to say hats off to Abbott for doing that. I've noticed that you get a lot of the conservative governors like him, and he just done some things that I disagree with. I think that we really need to be having some leaders that start saying we're not doing this, we're not going to shut this down, and take a stand for their constituents. But he kind of slowly let it go, and what he did is he pushed it into localities, and I think that that's something that we're dealing with right now. Is there's people in power that are taking the chance to seize the power and abusing it, so to speak. You guys could go to the Center for Health Freedom. It's run by Twyla Brace. She's a registered nurse. And I posted a video on Twitter that she was talking about some of the overreaching things and what you can do on what rights are given to these people during emergency medical powers. She has a questionnaire on there that if you do get taken in, the 12 questions that you can ask, and they have to answer these questions. So I would recommend that everybody visit that site, and so that they know that they're not going to be abused in such a way. Because we're seeing that now. We have things that's being used that they can check your temperatures. You got them doing it now at the borders. If you're crossing over from the Louisiana border, they're checking temperatures there. On the Texas border to say you can or can't come in, or I think they're quarantining you immediately, and you've got to give specific information of where you're going to quarantine. And I think that everybody needs to be more on the watch about this. But the panic that everything behind it is causing is just incredible. The psychology behind all of this has just amazed me, how quickly everybody is able to be shifted a direction out of fear, and then using conflicting information like we've all been experiencing. The inflated numbers about 2 million, now we're down to 200,000. Now it's not going to be that. But the whole purpose, and this is my opinion, but it's an informed, educated opinion of spending hours and hours and hours and hours looking at this data and listening to other experts, that you say those things immediately, the first thing in their mind is only that first thing that was said. After that, they stop listening to the other information being put out because they're still focused on that, and they're afraid. And so you can give new information after that, but once you've already caused the stampede, it's hard to stop that. And I believe that's exactly what we're seeing now. That's why you have people on social media, they're shaming you. Like, people being, if they're outside sitting with their family members. Some people have big families. We have neighbors with, 8 kids. They all live in this small area, and then what's to say that if they're outside, that's the living unit, and you're going to say that they're spreading the virus now and not caring about other people because they're outside doing this? Because we can still go outside and everything. Now, a lot of the stores here have made it to where now you can, like 5 at a time in the store, and it's gotten to the point where you'll stand in line for hours. Just essential things like that, like Lowe's is doing. But that's the things that is going on right now, and I find that very curious.
Yeah, well, like we even saw the WHO, and they were talking about actually coming in to take individuals out of homes. So, potentially coming in and taking somebody out of your home who, they suspect maybe could possibly be sick or have coronavirus or something like that. And then so they could take that person, isolate them, and then, essentially quarantine them for 14 days or however long it might be. I mean, that's where we're starting to get into the WHO and these globalist organizations. They're like trumping our Constitution if they were to implement something like that. And I find a lot of these things that are floating around in these ideas to be really concerning about, okay, so let's say we hold them off this time and they don't do that. What's going to happen next time or the time after that? Like if they're talking about it, I feel like usually the progressives will find a way to implement it at some point in the future, and that's concerning. Like, and that's one of the things I am glad that Trump has come in and like, okay, we're going to take a serious look at the WHO and decide, okay, is this something that we should continue to support or not? Because I just feel like they're way overstepping their bounds, I think.
Well, yeah, and then also you have not just the WHO doing it, you have large corporations that's involved in this. And like I just said about Henry Schein Incorporated, medical device makers, you have people with the World Bank, you have the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. All of these people are involved in this. And as we've talked about in previous programs, that we were saying with the Johns Hopkins University is involved with that. And where was everybody getting to this crazy information of these inflated numbers was coming from their site. And I think that what we're looking at, and I'm afraid of this, is that, yeah, they'll release us back and then it'll look like it's okay on the outside. Everything looks like it's normal, but it's not. And you posed a really good question there. What will happen and what will be allowed the next time? Because people will get back to normal for a few months, and then they're going to be like, well, it wasn't so bad that we locked down. It wasn't so bad. We'll get through it again. So they'll implement stronger measures because they've been conditioned now at this point that, well, it's acceptable now. I mean, look, we got to go back to normal 4 months later. But is it really normal? What else is going under there that you don't see? And I believe that's something that we may be looking at now at this point, is that maybe people have now it was painful, and they believed they could get through it again. So they push the envelope a little further. You start to slowly erode the ability to think critically, and what you'll accept will be a lot worse in the coming thing. So it's baby steps, and that's what they've been doing through all of this too. It's baby steps. Well, okay, social distance. Now 5,000 people can go out into the city. Now 400. Now we need to be only 10 at a time. No, you guys need to stay home. So baby steps. You start implementing these measures. People will start accepting it more and more because the pain is less to them because they're conditioned to accept that.
Yeah. No, that's totally correct, and I think that's where conservatives and Christians, I think, have been failing in this fight overall over the future of our country, because I feel like for the longest time we've been playing defensive. And so when you're playing defensive, you're always going to be giving up a little bit of ground. You're just trying to hold them off as much as you can, as opposed to basically taking their strategy and being on the offensive and actually trying to gain ground. And I think that's where we've kind of failed, and I think that this is kind of an indictment on that, in the sense of, I mean, look, even the Republicans voted for this bailout. Even the Republicans are pushing a lot of these big government solutions. Like, that's not something that should be had. I believe it was only Thomas Massey, and I know Rand Paul had said that he would vote against it as well if he didn't have coronavirus himself. But like, literally, all the solutions are big government solutions. Nothing is take care of yourselves. We'll provide support if you need it. But here's some guidance on how to take care of yourself. Which, in all reality, get rid of diabetes, get rid of cancer, get rid of lung disease, get rid of all these things. Coronavirus doesn't affect us. That's the thing. It's like, if you look at the deaths, it's all people that have underlying conditions for the vast majority of them. And the majority of those underlying conditions are self-induced because of poor diet and poor behavioral decisions. And that's a huge problem in America. And I just don't think anybody is waking up to the fact with all this coronavirus stuff going on.
Right. And you just said something there that is absolutely correct. A lot of the underlying conditions are due to poor health habits. Okay, and some of them not. Like, they say that these conditions are the ones that need to isolate. They said hypertension is one of those. Okay, I've suffered from hypertension. I've had to be on blood pressure pills. This is most of the nation. You get stressed out and you don't handle that stress appropriately, and it causes things like that, hypertension. So now, because most of people have hypertension or they're pre-hypertension, they're afraid at this point. So, oh man, I could die because I have an underlying condition. And I noticed that a lot of it's common conditions. We live in a country where people are vastly overweight because a lot of jobs don't require a lot of movement. We're at home. Now, over this time that I've been home, I've gained so much weight because I'm not in that habit where I was going to the gym and doing that. I didn't never change my lifestyle to meet that. And so now but I'm not obese by any means. But the fact is a lot of the country is. So now, now we're scared we can't do it because of it's common conditions. And why do you think they would use something like that with the common conditions? It's so easy to instill fear like that now I have this underlying condition and it's dangerous. So you're able to keep more people at bay. That's what I see when you said that.
Yeah, well, and one of the things with a lot of these common conditions, right? Diabetes, unless it's the genetic version, but for the vast majority of Americans, diabetes is completely self-induced, and you can actually reverse it. Like, literally, our doctor tells us that she could reverse diabetes easily in almost anybody within 30 days, as long as they hold to a strict diet. Like, that's it. But most people feel like once they have diabetes, they have it for life. But it's because they don't change their diet. They're not willing to change their lifestyle in order to get healthy. I think that one of the things that I think we need to have more people preaching and teaching and yelling from the rooftops is take this as a wake-up call. Get yourselves ready for the next epidemic. Get healthy. Get your finances in order. I mean, it's a wake up to all of us. It's a wake up call to me. It's a reminder. Got to make sure that we stay healthy. Got to make sure that we've got our finances in order. Got to make sure that we're stockpiled with enough supplies in case there is an emergency. I mean, the majority of Americans make fun of people who stock up. It's like, well, Now look where we're at. You know what I mean? Now everybody's got to go sit and wait in line, for an hour to get into Trader Joe's. It's just the way it is. But I think it's one of those things where let's all start getting back to eating real food and not all the fake processed crap. And let's actually build up our immune systems. And sure, maybe we'll get coronavirus, but if we're healthy, we're not going to die from it. We're going to have a bad cough, maybe a fever. 10 days, we're back to normal. We see that with Rand Paul. He's back to normal as well and now volunteering in a hospital. So let's all get healthy before the next epidemic.
Right. I think that's absolutely true, Jeff, because I think that a lot of this is exposed us of our weak points. And when you have weak points, you got to, fix them. You use your strengths, right? Always use your strengths because everybody has different gifts and everything. But we all can improve in every area. And especially with food. I mean, this has really blown the whole window open of how dependent we were on going to restaurants. Now they're essential. We got to keep them open for takeout. But yeah, some of that's the reason that it's led to a lot of the health problems. And not anything against those guys, but you're right. It's exposed our lifestyle choices and to be able to be healthy and ready for these things is extremely important. Because if we're taking care of ourselves the way that we're supposed to, you're going to be more confident in how anything that goes around, such as these things, because then you're going to have less of these underlying conditions. Look, my brother's type 1 diabetes. He has had it since he was 3. All right. So some people, you can't change all of that. Like me, I have arthritis and all this stuff. But that's not to say that you can't do other things to offset those issues, to be healthy. And I think that you made a really good point about the food. And I think that because we're all home now, and the positive thing about this is we're able to do a lot more. We have more time to cook our foods. So we're not rushing and then doing processed foods. That's absolutely correct.
Yeah, like right now, my wife and I are doing we're doing a Whole30 right now, which is one of those things where all you eat is real food, and it's basically everything in its whole state. So we're cooking food, but you're not going to mix it to make breads and a lot of those kinds of like carbs and things like that. And and every time we do it, we feel so much healthier. And we're like, we might as well take advantage of this time. And let's do it. We're at home. We can cook. We can do all this kind of stuff. But I feel like at the same time, too, because we choose to eat healthy and we've eliminated a lot of the chemicals in our household, we've taken a lot of those precautions. We go and we get our blood checked, quite often, at least every year, just to check our levels and stuff. And it's like, we're healthy. A lot of my friends and family, they're not healthy because they're eating processed food and fast food and, eating out a lot and things like that. And it's like, it's important to take care of yourself. And I think that coronavirus is really exposing that because and there was the statistics from New York, and I read it this morning on the America Held Hostage podcast that I'm doing with John Hinton right now. And literally there was 3,000 people, I believe, that have died in New York up to this date. Out of all those people that died, only I think it was less than 60 of them didn't have an underlying condition. So that, like, you're literally talking like 1%, if that, of people that have died did not have an underlying condition. There was only 2 people under the age of 17 that have died, and they both had underlying conditions. It's like, let's get ourselves healthy. And that's a huge problem in our country. And I'm hoping that somebody will kind of, start shouting it from the rooftop, like, let's start getting healthy, because if coronavirus, because they're talking about it's going to start coming back every year potentially. So let's make sure that this time next year, we're much healthier, so that way we don't have anything to worry about. And maybe we wouldn't have to be on a shutdown if everybody was healthy.
Okay, yeah, see, and that's another thing that you just said there. They're talking about it's going to be coming back every year. Why are we hiding? Why are we hiding behind closed doors?
Are we going to do this every year?
Right. Are we going to lock down the country for 6 months? That's insane, guys. Let's get out there. I get it. I was listening to a preacher named Shram Hadian, and he made a very good point. And he's from Washington State, and that's it's pretty messed up there right now. And he's got somebody that's really pushed him down, just the same as California. And he said, look. He talked about how everything's been infringed upon our rights and stuff, that we just need to get out there and then open up the economy in about yeah, you quarantine those that are sick, that have these issues. If it's a threat to them, you ask them, do you want to, or do you want to keep going? All right. Because maybe somebody that has another underlying condition doesn't want to be imprisoned in their house for 40 days. But you ask them if they want to do it or not. Okay, so you realize these are the risks. Fine. I think that that's another thing is we need to understand that, yeah, we have new things come out all the time. You have viruses that mutate all the time. Still the numbers show flu kills a lot of people, the thousands and thousands and thousands more than the coronavirus. If this thing's going to be coming back every year, and obviously it is because it's introduced now to everyone, we can't be hiding from this thing. We need to be out. There's a thing called herd immunity. So it's time that we start taking some chances. And maybe you're going to get sick, maybe you won't. But we can't run and hide from a bunch of proteins because the government's not going to be there to take care of you, and they shouldn't be. So that's a good point that you made there. I mean, if we're going to be coming back every year to this, what are we going to do? Approach it the same way? Or what's the next one? What's the next novel coronavirus that comes out that could maybe be worse?
Yeah. Well, and see, like that's one of the things that I'm concerned about with our country, just in general, is, and kind of like what you were saying before, is we're becoming very conditioned to expect the government to have all of the answers and to be the solution to everything. And I think an example of that is I saw on Twitter that Andrew Yang, who out of all the Democrats, I probably liked him and Tulsi Gabbard the most out of all the Democrats when they were running. But Andrew Yang made the comment, which I'm like, okay, that really exposes this mentality of, he said that, Americans are really going to be liking getting that check for $1,200. And it was essentially saying, let's make this a normal thing with universal basic income. And I feel like what we're seeing is that the Democrats and some Republicans are seeing this as an opportunity to, well, hey, if they're okay with the bailout now, I mean, why don't we just make it a monthly thing? Why don't we make it a regular thing? If they're okay with big government solutions and shutting down, maybe we do this all the time. Maybe we take away churches over 100 people. You know what I mean? Like maybe they start putting these regulations in place because, hey, it's for your safety. We're looking out for you. We know best. And I think that for whatever reason, Americans are just rolling over and just saying, okay. And that's a huge problem.
Right. That's scary, because you think about how dependent everybody is and how easy it is to just get that check. Because there's some people that, because it says $1,200 a person. If you married, filed joint, that's $2,400. $500 per kid. So if you have 2 kids, what's that? $3,400, I believe, that somebody's getting. Most people don't make that, well, not most. Okay. Not a lot of people don't make that. So that it would start being more attractive to them. I'll just stay home, and then I can get $3,400 from the government. And how long is that going to be? Just this one thing's not sustainable that we passed. So imagine if that becomes something normal, and it could possibly be accepted. I mean, you already see people being accepted, telling that they can stay home. They have to stay home. What else will they accept?
Yeah, and it's getting crazy, because it's one of those things where conservatives have been saying, hey, this is going to happen, this is going to happen if we keep going down this path, and now all of a sudden we're here, and we're kind of at a point of no return. And I'm very thankful we got somebody like President Trump in office, where I don't think that he's going to allow a lot of this to continue past the coronavirus crisis. But what is concerning is that there's so many governors and so many of the American people that are kind of feeling like, maybe we need more governmental control. Maybe we need more regulations. Maybe we need to take away some of our own rights for our safety. And I feel like that happens at every crisis. And that's very dangerous territory if you actually want freedom and liberty, because we're getting to the point to where, Twitter shutting down Rudy Giuliani's tweet about the malaria drug. We're taking away freedom of speech. We're taking away the right to peaceably assemble with churches. I mean, churches aren't even like out here in San Bernardino, California, you're not allowed to hold Easter church service. If you're a person that's just going to church, you are risking 90 days in prison or $1,000 fine. This is nuts. This is not what our founding fathers had intended for us.
No, because now you're telling people that they can't go and worship as normal. That now they're telling people that they can't even do the drive-up church anymore, and you're gonna infect a bunch of people because you have 50 cars and everybody's in their car.
Yeah.
It's a control state. You're being told what you can and can't do, and then you're accepting it because you're probably afraid of the social media backlash you're going to get, and you're going to get it. This is something that people are going to need to start doing. There's something that you're going to do. You're going to start counting your principles more than the number of your friends, because those people, many of them are going to turn against you, and you guys are going to have to start seeing that. You'll see who's really on your side or not when you start making choices on your own that they disagree with, because you have so many people out there now that like they shame you because you go to the store with your kid. Now you have stores telling you 1 member per household, so now you can't bring your kids with them. I've seen people shaming single mothers because they say they can't find a babysitter. Oh, well, you can't go 10 minutes down the street and find a babysitter. But wait a minute. You guys are all about this social distancing and then not spreading the virus, but you want them to go and find child care for their child, so you're going to have to go to this house. It's madness. You guys are contradicting yourselves all the time by saying these things. So you're going to start you're going to count your principles more than the number of your friends, and that's coming very soon.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the questions that I feel like I'm continually having is, and I put this up to pastors when I'm get into theological debates with them, and then I'm putting this up to politicians with the way that they're implementing things right now is, what is the general principle that you want us to follow in general that we can apply across the board? Because right now there is no general principle. They're just throwing out random stuff. Like sometimes it's, you don't need a mask, and then now they're saying you need a mask. Sometimes it's you need social distancing. Other times it's saying it's okay if it's under certain circumstances. You're not allowed to gather in a church, but you could go to Walmart. Like, and it was I think it was Pastor Kim Peters. He posted on Twitter. It's like, hey guys, we're gonna have church at Walmart this Sunday because we'd be legally allowed to do it. It's like that's the crazy state that we're in right now, is that there is no general principle, and I think it's just everybody's just pulling stuff out of thin air, and they're just making stuff up on the fly. And it's like, so we're supposed to base all of our decisions in shutting down the entire economy off of this craziness.
Yeah, and it's really started to change people's outlook. It's really started to change. You really see how selfish people truly are, and it's because and the reason I say that they're more selfish is because they're more willing to turn their friends in or anybody that they see because they simply don't like what they're doing.
Yep.
And it's not that it's illegal or anything, and it's not harming anyone. You guys are just going and saying that because some person on TV told you to. Or someone made some rule out of thin air that says that you need to do it this way. And I think that now people are not generous at this point. And I get that you're afraid, but not everybody is, and not everybody needs to be, and not everybody needs to do what you tell them to do. And, now you got all these people who have been just waiting to tell people what to do. And it's sad and it's sick.
Yeah. Now, what do you make of because I feel like we've all been watching the press conferences and hearing Trump speak and Fauci and everybody. But what do you make of? I feel like Trump's numbers right now are going up because the majority of Americans like what he's doing in general. It seems like he's being very proactive and doing everything he possibly can. He's definitely way ahead of the curve on shutting down travel back and forth from Europe and Asia and things like that. But what do you make of the constant hostility of mainstream media and the elites, even in these circumstances where it seems like every time we turn around, Trump is being proven right and they're being proven wrong, but yet there's still that constant trying to play gotcha and just take him down. What do you make of that?
Well, it's brainwashing. So what you do is you stay consistent to your narrative. Okay. So this was practiced in that Event 201. And you guys, I recommend that you take the 3 hours and sit down and watch this repeatedly. And I'm sorry I'm late on it, guys, but I'll show you all of that. I got it all put together here for you to see, and I'll tell you how and why this looks what we're going through. And they're hostile to him because you have the same thing you and I are doing. They're holding the line on what their projection is. And it's not that we're projecting, but that's what they're doing. And so they have to do that, because now what are they saying, guy, is that, well, look what the Republicans did. They're already saying that now, that because it's about changing what people hear and then believe. So they constantly hear that repeatedly. So that's the only thing that they start believing, because it's if they say it, it's true. Now people know that the mainstream media is not correct, but they're so now about not wanting to fight against anything that they're willing to just take that as truth. Now, is Trump's numbers going to stay up? I believe absolutely, but they're going to stay hostile to the point because they got a narrative to prove after this is finished, and they're going to do that come election time. That because they're like I just said, they're already saying that look what the Republicans have done by passing this bill. They're already projecting that as that we did that. So it's getting really bad that way, and they have to keep doing it. And that's why you see people like Acosta continually back there making fun of Trump, belittling the facts. And so what they got to do is to continue to have that narrative and to have that information so that everything else looks like conspiracy.
Yeah, and I think, to a certain degree, speaking of conspiracy a little bit, but and we were talking about this before we went on the air, but literally we've been seeing a lot of reports now about how the government's gonna be using drones in order to be flying around and checking your temperature remotely, and making, if you cough, you sneeze, it can register it. They'll contact the local authorities. They could come in. They can detain you. It's literally like it's out of like the movie The Terminator. Like that's what I feel like. It's like coming. It's like it's a documentary. It's real life. It's no longer just fiction. And what's crazy is I just feel like we're at this place where all the crazy conspiracy theorists said we're going to get here at some point, and then all of a sudden now we're looking around and we're like, well, the government's listening in on our phone calls. They have access to us through Amazon and Alexa. They're sending drones around spying on us and checking our temperature remotely without us even knowing it. I don't even know how that's constitutional without a warrant. I mean, this is a crazy, crazy world. And where are the conservatives rising up and saying, hey, guys, this is a little much?
Well, let me tell you what the conservatives here did. That this was put out by the local ABC affiliate, Channel 7, KLTV, several hours ago. They did an interview with the traffic control people. And the traffic control people at two major intersections have been using devices to read the Bluetooth in your cars, on your phones. And they've been using that to see how traffic and everything changed and how effective the stay-at-home order is. And what else? And so what do they do with that traffic? They're getting into your car. They're accessing your devices. They're seeing how you guys are out, and then they're going to see, well, we just weren't strong enough. People kept going out, and so these so-called conservatives are going to say, well, we need to get stronger and then make it where they can't. We'll start arresting them, and I can see that. That's why. Why else would you be doing something like that? Going in and invading people's privacy. This is Patriot Act type stuff. We don't need that, and this is conservative. So yeah, conservative and Republican and Democrat, they're both doing it. And so who here anymore at this point is on our side?
That's the thing, is that I feel like we're getting to a point now to where it's no longer Republican versus Democrat. It's conservative versus elitist, or conservative against authoritarianism. That's really where we're at, because in all reality, the problem lies with both the Republicans and the Democrats. It's not one party or the other. But I just think that it's our best shot at actually taking back our country is with the Republican Party. With that said, we've got some major cleaning up we got to do within our own ranks if we're going to actually get rid of these big government solutions. Like where's the soul of our country? I mean, like literally, our founding fathers wanted freedom and liberty for everybody, where everybody could make their own decisions, and all of a sudden now it's you're not smart enough to make your own decisions. Only we can do it. And stop questioning us, because all you are is just a conspiracy theorist. Like, that's literally, they're just talking down to us left and right. And I think we need to remember, we are supposed to be a government by the people and for the people. And for whatever reason, that's just flipped to where now we're just servants of the government.
Right. I mean, and, that's why Dr. Fauci stood under the mic, because he can't reach it. And
I wouldn't have that problem being 6'3".
At the lower. but he talked down to every one of them about things that were blatantly true, that calling us conspiracy theorists. And he's smiling when he done it, and he walked out. So yes, they keep calling you conspiracy theorists, and it's always called conspiracy when it's opposed to what they're doing. Always.
Yeah. Now, coming out of this, do you feel like Trump and the handful of true conservatives that it seems like are left in our government, do you feel like they're going to be able to take things back to the way they were and back to freedom and liberty and the way that our country should be? Or do you feel like there's going to be this new normal of big government ideas and power grabs and control even coming out of this, even if Trump gets reelected?
No, the landscape's changed already. It's never going back to the same again, because everybody's already accepted this is status quo, and this is what's been accepted as what we need to be doing when something like this is an epidemic and a pandemic worldwide, that we got to start dealing with this and this issue, because we got to keep everybody safe. And if we can get back to normal, it's years away now. It's going to take more than Trump's next 4 years. Hopefully we can do something about it. But nah, landscape's changed. The normal is not normal anymore.
Yeah, and I think that kind of moving forward too, one of the things that we're going to have to do as conservatives and as Christians is really pay attention to the House and the Senate votes in our local communities, because the Democrats have really focused on, especially like the Justice Democrats, I think it is, and some of those organizations, they've really been focusing on more of like the localized elections and the smaller elections and things that they could win. And conservatives, I feel like, have been focused so much on Trump and the president and the really big election. And it's like, we need to get true constitutional conservatives back in office in the House, in the Senate, and then also we need to get some actual conservative governors in place that promote freedom. Because like, I'm out here in California, like literally Gavin Newsom is out here talking about making California an even more progressive state. We're going to take advantages of this opportunity, and basically it's never going to be the same. And you're just like, I didn't know that we could get more progressive out here. And all of a sudden now we're talking about going even crazier. I don't even know what that is besides like flat out communism. So it's just like a matter of like we need to pay attention to some of these smaller elections as conservatives, and take back the House, take back the Senate, take back our local governments, because if we don't, like, we're just going to keep going downhill with no return.
Right, absolutely. And, it all really goes down to the school board, because remember that they're trying to put in this, the lost the title of what it is, but basically is where they're taking the kids and putting them into the jobs now. So outcome-based education.
Mm-hmm.
That's the. So parents now, you guys have been home for what I think. I haven't even lost track of time. How long have we been doing this? A couple of months now?
I think we've had like stay at home orders. At least out here in California, I think we're at like day 22 or 23 or something like that.
Feels like a year.
I know, it's true.
But you guys now have actually gotten to experience what's being taught to your kids. So you kind of know what's being to look out for. So now you need to be paying attention to the people that are sitting on the school boards, because they're the ones who's really going to be changing the direction of this, the United States from this point forward. And the local elections matter very much. I realize this is going to be very difficult depending on how liberal the area is, but you're going to have to guard up your loins. You're going to have to learn that it's difficult, and I believe that that's what you're doing with your American conservative movement. That you just got to get all the people together and fight back, take back your country, because you can't let it just be on Trump or somebody. It's you. You're the one who changes it. Yeah,
well, and that's the thing too, is like, as conservatives, we can't just be, and I'm not saying we can't be MAGA people, but we can't just be MAGA people, because I think that's a danger that a lot of people on the right are falling into, is that they feel like we have to support Trump no matter what. And I feel like if we're going to be principled conservatives, we need to call balls and strikes, and we need to say this was good, this was bad. Sorry, but Trump's $2 trillion bailout, bad. Big government. I mean, we all criticized Obama for doing his $800 billion bailout. Now we like almost triple it. Like, that's even worse, guys. Come on, let's be consistent here. And I think that we need to be able to criticize our own, and we need to be able to criticize the left as well. But the thing is that we need to remember that, like, just because you criticize somebody, so like, for example, if we criticize President Trump, that's not saying Trump is the worst person in the entire world and he should never be president. That's saying, I disagree with this one thing. And I think that we need to remember that, is that people are not all good and they're not all bad. There's some good and there's some bad. Call it like it is. And I think we need more of that and more consistency if we're going to bring our country back, because right now everybody's just falling in line and just saying, go team, go. And it's like, where did the principles go? It seems like nobody has principles anymore.
No, and I think that's a lot of everybody just wanting to fit in with what the herd is doing. I think that it's important that, because I've said in the past, like, I was really angry about the bill. And I knew what was coming down the pike. I was watching it very closely, and I made a statement that if Trump did that, I wasn't going to vote for him. Of course, that's an extreme statement. I'm going to vote for Trump, but you just don't take the crap. You don't take just. This is supposed to be a representative government. You need to have your voice heard, and you're going to get kickback for that. You're going to have to realize that people are going to disagree with you. Everybody thinks they're right to a point, but you got to understand that you can't be a lemming. You're going to go off the cliff with them. I mean, nobody's to say that Trump will do the best thing forever. You can't. You have to keep a watchful eye on that, because they are working for you. You need to keep their feet to the fire. You stand on your principles. You stop giving in to all of this. Well, we're going to lose if we don't support 100%. No, you're going to lose if you cave for support. The person's going to win by you making your voice heard, and then showing clear, rational thought that you don't agree with everything that person does. We're not all cheerleaders. We don't need to be cheerleaders. We need to be people we're trying to take back our country. You can't do that by everybody looking the same and falling in line. It does not work that way.
Yeah. I just feel like it's getting so crazy out there, and then I'm sitting out here in the middle of California, crazy leftists all around me, and I'm just like looking around, and I'm like, how did we get to this point where, like, even just like normal everyday people are becoming leftist and more progressive, and and maybe I'm a little I feel I'm an island in the middle of progressive California compared to other places, but it's crazy how, when you think about it, it's almost like everybody's just brainwashed, and they're just walking around with this mentality, this entitlement mentality. They've been told from school, from a young age, you just need to be an employee, say yes sir, no ma'am, go along to get along, don't cause any drama, don't stand out, just go along and say yes to the government, and you're entitled to everything. And it's a very strange version of America that we're in right now. And I'm like, dude, I just want to get back to what our founding fathers wanted, and just let me make my own decision for my own family. Why does Gavin Newsom feel like he has to tell me what to do?
Right, and I think that and I got to be very careful how I say this. Don't get me wrong, people, but you need to always question the state of things, right? I mean, do you need to do everything that your parents did? Were they right on everything? And I'm trying to be careful on saying that because you got to respect the authority figures. Your parents very well could be telling you the right things, but why? Why do they do it? Why have they done that? Why did they teach you to do that? And a lot of information is out there that is conflicting that makes your parents look bad, of course. But why? Where did it come from? Does that mean that what they did was always right? The same thing with any kind of authority figure. You need to always be questioning what is the truth, because there's only one absolute truth, but you've got to find it, right? And so you don't need to, just because somebody else did it doesn't mean it's right. And if we are always just following people because they say that that's the right thing to do, what's to say that you're just not being led off the cliff with them? You know, I mean, it's the whole principle of why are your parents poor? Yeah. Well, you're trying to get rich or wealthier by your means, by whatever you consider as well. Are you going to get there by doing the same thing they did? That may have been right for them. That may have been what they were content with. But it doesn't always mean that it's the right absolute thing there. So, you know, I'm just trying to be careful about how I say that. But you need to be questioning things. Anybody that's telling you that you don't have the right to question is an idiot. That's the person who wants to control you because they don't like that you ask questions. You know who doesn't ask questions? Crazy people.
Yeah, that's true. Question everything. That's what I like to say. It doesn't mean that there is no absolute truth, but the point is that there is absolute truth, and the problem is that a lot of times we don't have the hard facts right in front of us. We're basing everything that we believe on what somebody else says, whether that's a pastor, a politician, somebody like Fauci, whatever it is. It's for the most part, everything that we believe, we're being told by somebody else. So that means that what we need to do is we need to literally question everything. Try to find out why they're saying what they're saying. Don't just take everything at face value. Look at the statistics for yourself. Does that make sense? If it doesn't make sense, ask a question. Find out why it seems like what they're saying doesn't match the statistics. Find out why they're saying that millions of people are going to die, but only a handful of thousand people are dying. Like, find out why. Ask questions, and then when you get an answer, you reevaluate your position, and then you decide: do I need to change what I believe, or does it reinforce what I already believe? But it takes going through the process of constantly reevaluating, asking questions, challenge authority. It doesn't mean you disobey authority, but challenge it. Because I'm telling you, the majority of authority, they're just telling you what works best for them. They're not necessarily telling you the truth. And that's what we also have to remember when we're dealing with the government. They're not telling us the truth. They're just telling us what they want us to believe.
Exactly. I mean, I don't think that we've been even getting all of the complete facts about this virus. Just like a lot of people, and a lot of people are aware of this event 201 now, thanks to people who get out there and talk about it. But there's a lot that isn't. And just like when we present anything, you need to question that. And by questioning anything, you begin to understand it better. Because just accepting it because it's being said does not make it understood. The only way that you understand anything is by asking the questions. Sometimes it's the right question and sometimes it's the wrong question. But at all times, always do that, because you'll never understand anything unless you do.
Well, that's very true. And it's like, you would think that we would have learned that lesson after 9/11 with all of the misinformation and all the bad information that came out. If everybody just sat back and just said, I'm not going to ask any questions, I'm just going to take what you said at face value. I mean, granted, we are still at war. We still do have soldiers over there in Afghanistan and all that kind of stuff. But still, we could have been in an even deeper, war, deeper battle. Like, things could have been totally different coming out of 9/11 had people not asked questions, if people had not challenged authority and said, well, why are you saying that? What's the facts? Back that up. Because I'm just telling you, like, everything that comes out of the government ends up being propaganda. It doesn't mean I want to be a conspiracy theorist, But if you're going to make a claim, you got to be able to back it up. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with just asking why, or why did you say that, or where's the facts. It's vitally important that we do that before we make up our minds on what's right and wrong.
Right. I completely agree with that. I think that everybody just needs to be out there questioning what's going on. Everybody's kind of just accepting it now, everything. And it's demotivating. Many times I'm banging my head on the wall because I have in me that I just want to, how can I reach people with the information that I know? And what kind of kickback am I going to get? Or why isn't it working? What am I doing wrong in order to do it? Because a lot of times it feels like nobody's listening, or maybe they are listening and they don't know. They're too afraid to ask you why, because they're afraid that if they ask you why, they're going to look like they either believe you or they're going to look like they're stupid. And I think that's why we're getting a lot of that issue, because people don't want to be the person being attacked. So.
Yeah. And I think that one of the things that we need to get back to is we need to get back to being able to debate issues without getting offended that we disagree with each other. And I think that that's vitally important, especially for the future of our country. I really wish that Bernie had won the Democratic primary, because we could have actually had a debate between a socialist and a capitalist. Like, that could have been the first time on a big national stage that we could actually have that debate and let Trump and Bernie duke it out. Instead, we're going to have Joe Biden, who's clearly got some issues. I mean, I'm really looking forward to the debates because it's going to be entertaining, because, I mean, Biden's probably not even going to know where he is. But at the same time, it's like we're not going to have that fundamental debate over the soul of our country, depending on whether they even let Biden be the nominee or not. So we just got to get back to conversing and debating and not just hating each other for disagreements.
Right. Yeah, and with the Biden issue, you got somebody who's been well practiced and well versed at hiding his communist roots all of this time, to now being put where he's the one being controlled because he doesn't have the intellectual means that he used to possess, and which makes it to where he's being touted as some moderate, that now you won't be able to have those debates about why we don't want something versus what we want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's gonna be really interesting once we get past the whatever it is they're gonna do for the Democratic convention. It's gonna be really interesting to see, like, are they gonna do debates over Skype? Are they gonna do it like in a closed without an audience? Like, what? I don't even know how this is all gonna play out, but it's gonna be fascinating to see what the debates end up looking like and what they're gonna be debating over. I don't know. It's going to be interesting leading up to this 2020 election for sure.
Right, and I think that we need to have the live debates. And the reason I say that is just because now we're going to have him to have the ability to have the things fed to him that he needs to say. It could be there in front of him. There could be someone in that room who's giving him the signs or things to say. So it's unfair, and the debate wouldn't even be truthful in any way, because there's too much that you can lie about behind the camera and while the other one's saying it. So he may not even be the one saying this thing. He's being told what to say. I think that they got to be live. We can't, things that everybody needs to push back against. We want live debates. They need to be there in the same room, and it needs to be in a controlled environment where nobody has earpieces or any of that, because quite frankly, I don't think that Biden has the capability to debate. I don't think that he will understand what's being said to him. I think that he gets corrected too easily. He has people there correcting him. It's the same principle as Hillary Clinton, her illness. So it would be very dangerous to not do it in person.
Yeah, well, that's where I have a feeling that they're going to replace Biden with either Gavin Newsom or Cuomo. That's my prediction. Once I think that they're gonna have a doctor that's going to diagnose him with either dementia or Alzheimer's, and then they'll replace him with Newsom or Cuomo. But they can't do it now because otherwise Bernie would get the nomination. So that's why they're holding out. That's my prediction. So we'll see. What do I know? I'm just a random guy out here in California. So what's next for Battlefront Southgate? I know you've been working on some stuff. What's coming up next?
Guys, I'm still got the Event 201 thing is sitting here on the computer. I went back and scrapped some things because I wasn't satisfied with it, with what I did, what I put together. I felt that the last episode I made it way too complicated. Just so much information there, guys, that I can't even get that into 1, 2, 3 episodes. And I don't want to inundate you guys with too much, but I want to talk to you guys about the globalist control of what's going on with this. I see everything is just it's so clear to me about what's going on because you sit there and you spend so much hours watching how they practice these things. It's almost like they're reading from a script right in front of you. And that's what you're going to be showing. I'm going to be showing you guys how the media was controlled in this situation. I'm going to show you what I think. I've made a link about the various groups that are involved with this. We have some groups that, like the World Health Organization, you have the Center for Health Security. You have the Rockefeller Foundation and the Ford Foundations are all involved in that. Then you got the Tushkovsky Institute. A lot of that stuff. I'm going to show you how some of the brainwashing has happened. While we see some of the herd mentality, what I think has pushed everybody to do that. That's what's coming on Southgate. I'm really trying to push hard to have it out to gatekeepers by this weekend. I've revamped a lot of stuff. I've done a lot of editing so that we can have this. I want this to be televised. We're gonna have both podcasting, but guys, the whole point with this now is you can hear it and see it, and seeing it's important with what I got to show you. So that's another reason that we haven't got that out to you. We ran over some hiccups, but things are going to smooth out here in a little bit. So that's the next thing coming up, guys. Stay tuned for that Event 201 issue, and I'm going to show you what happened and how we got here.
Definitely. So yeah, definitely everybody tune in for that. Make sure you guys follow Dustin on Twitter. It was at DLloyd if I'm going off the top of my head, I believe, correct?
Yeah, at DLOYDFAULK.
Yep. So definitely follow him. Keep up on everything's going on. I mean, Dustin's our resident expert when it comes to like a lot of the national security stuff and borders and Ilhan Omar and all that kind of stuff. So definitely for a lot of those issues, definitely be following him. Highly recommend it. And then make sure you guys are checking out his podcast. You guys can go back and listen to some of the old stuff too, because it's a lot of relevant information. So definitely go check that out. But yeah, Dustin, I'm really glad we could do this. Really, I'm gonna have to check our records and see whether you are neck and neck with Sam or who's actually in the lead. And then we'll see about who actually wins this competition here.
I'm Sam.
But as always, I always enjoy having you on, and well, I'm sure again with this news cycle, I'm sure we'll be having you on again here pretty quick as well. So. Yeah, definitely. And then for everybody else out there as well, if you want more information on what we're doing here at the GK, our main way that you can support us is by getting plugged in, which is our membership program. You'll get access to our Destroy Social Justice Conference, the recording of that. You'll also get access to our first roundtable podcast called Connected, which was myself, Dustin, Sam Jones, and Schumann, randomly talking about whatever pops into our mind. Don't want to miss that one. That episode alone is totally worth it. Also, if you do sign up for the annual membership, you're going to get a free copy of our book, Social Injustice, that we will send right out to you. So definitely check that out, gatekeepersonline.com/plugged in for more information. But yeah, we will be back here tomorrow tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. For our America Held Hostage podcast that John Hinton and I are doing. Just a chance, half an hour in the morning, go over the news, keep you up to date on what's going on, little bit of commentary on it, but just want to be able to keep you guys in the loop of everything that's going on, because I'm just telling you, there's so much information to process. So, whatever we can do to help, you to be able to process that information and have the right worldview, we are trying to do that. So check that out, 9 a.m. Pacific time here on Facebook, the America Held Hostage podcast. It's a blast, and we will see you guys then.